There seems to be some career confusion in today's professional world. Our guest today examines the sequence of events and transitions that form the current career landscape and aims to encourage and guide people to navigate this new job market. I'm Grace Trafton of The Better Part. Stay tuned for some interesting insights. Dr. Tracey Wilen is a researcher and speaker on the impact of technology on society, work, and careers. Dr. Wilen was named San Francisco Woman of the Year and honored by the San Francisco Business Times as the most influential woman in Bay Area business. In addition, she's the author of 13 books. Today, we'll be discussing her latest book, Career Confusion. Welcome, Tracey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, why is there career confusion today?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why there's career confusion, but some that I talk about the most is number one, the ever-changing technology. We have technologies that people really can't even see, touch, and feel anymore, like artificial intelligence. And, what does that mean to me? What is immersive technology? But two is that firms are changing. They used to be very hierarchical, very predictable. You knew what your job is. And today they're much more fluid and flat. And people have to sort of find their own jobs. Third is skills. In the past, it was soft skills or hard skills. And today, companies want it all. They want you to be mathematical, scientific, but be able to communicate, read, and write as well. And that's pretty tough. And then lastly is just the fact that we're living longer. We're going to have so many careers, so many more than in the past. It's just not once like it used to be. We probably could have 4 or 5 careers. That's very confusing for a lot of people.
So my grandson will be graduating from high school pretty soon. What advice can you give to him about how he can go about figuring out his career path?
Well, I think when you're young, you need to start to tap into things that you like to do, that you do well. And then I say well enough to get paid for it, or if you're in a company, get promoted for it. Because it's all about trying to find what are your unique offerings and skills, or sometimes I also call scarce skills, that people really want from you in the workforce and that you can stick with it for the long haul so that you will always be employed for life.
So what if he gets stuck and don't know what he wants to do?
So depending on where he is, graduating from high school and maybe entering college or maybe not, it's all about exploration and trying things and also talking to people. With all the social media today, young people can really reach out to people who are doing interesting jobs and working in interesting companies and ask them, whether through a video chat or just online, what is it like? Companies are also really providing a lot more transparency about what it's like to work there or what different careers have. But if you are in school, then I really encourage internships. It used to be something you did in your senior year. Kids are starting internships in high school, college, summer jobs, and exploration. So there's a lot more you can do today. If you're a little confused, get your hands dirty and try to figure out what you like.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. Now, you tell adults who are confused about career direction to stop the noise. What do you mean by that exactly?
Adults come to me and they go, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm just like, stop the noise. Think about what you don't want to do, right? Then maybe we can get to a short list. So maybe is, I don't want to travel in my job, or I don't want to commute more than 20 minutes. Well, then draw a circle on a map and figure out what companies fall there. Or I want to be in healthcare, but I can't stand the sight of blood. So, all right, well, let's start to partition off any job that might be more clinical, and then you can look at the other jobs, which could be in customer service or marketing or technology. So if you can eliminate some of the things you don't want to do, it might be easier then to make a short list. And then you can start to pursue some of the things that you think you'd like to do.
Now, how about people who are older? How should they approach the jobs?
I had a colleague of mine. She's working today still well into her 70s, and she's always made job shifts around her age and her stage of life. And her advice to me was, always look for the age-appropriate job. So for example, today you might see a lot of people in their 70s working in university systems, nonprofit, healthcare, but she said not startups. So you have to start to think about where's the community of people going to be that you will be comfortable working in, and that the community is very adjusted to whatever age you are. Just like a young person would not fit into maybe some other kinds of jobs, so that because of the age, differential. So I think as we get older, we have to start to think about that in addition to transitioning our skills. So maybe you're a CFO, a chief financial officer in a large corporation today, but you want to phase into something that is not as fast-paced, or you're transitioning with your firm. Well, you can take those financial skills and bring it to a nonprofit or a small firm. Now, there's a lot of ways that we can be what they call, seasoned executives, flexible executives, where we can work part-time for startup firms that need a very seasoned person to oversee some of the strategy for them. So there's a lot of things that we can think about as we get older of where do we position ourselves.
So it's like a different mindset.
Very different mindset. And every generation, you need to adjust your mindset and say, where do I want to go today?
So you know that retirement is a career, and the most significant career. Now, why would you say that?
Oh, it is, because I'll tell you why. Number one, you're not in the structured workforce anymore. So you don't have a company to go to. You don't have set tasks or jobs or goals that your goal is to generate revenue for yourself. So you have to be much more entrepreneurial. Number two, it's probably the longest career of your life, right? Because you're going to be planning, probably as you're living longer, you could be planning 20, 30, 40, 50 years of your next step, right? Because a lot of people living to 115 today.
Not too many.
But we have to think about these things. And then number three is there's different components. When you went to an office or you went to jobs today, you get a lot of socialization. But when you're retired, you have to rethink that whole plan. So not only are you thinking about what am I going to do, how am I going to finance it, but then how am I going to socialize? And then the fourth component is health and fitness, right? How am I going to stay healthy? Because a lot of times young in our career, we don't care. We run around, we eat whatever we want, we do whatever we want. Now we're retired, we actually think about life preservation, and how are we going to, really enjoy this best career that we have.
So what is the best way to prepare for your retirement career, and when should you start doing that?
Well, it's never too young to start preparing, but I think a lot of people should start thinking about it while they're working, particularly on the financial side, so that you have the savings, so that you can afford to retire in a way that you'd like to do. Number two is it's never too early to think about health and fitness, because a lot of the things that we do today can impact our health later on, and you want to have a good time. But number three is while you're working, can you take courses or skill development opportunities that can help position you if you want to have your own business when you retire, or if you want to, have a franchise? You can always do gigs on the weekends or test things out while you're working, or you could build a skill. A colleague of mine is a controller, and he wanted to be able to be a part-time controller for companies when he left the workforce. So he made sure that he understood how to set up a company. What did he have to think about? What did he have to do to be able to do that? And he started it earlier before he left.
Today, though, technology is moving so fast that there'll be jobs tomorrow that don't exist today. How is it possible for people to prepare for jobs that don't even exist right now?
I know, it is a tough one. So I tell young people, focus on that math and science while you're in school, because it's clear that technology is here to stay and it's going to increase for jobs. And a lot of these jobs are very mathematical and scientific and computer skills. As an adult, while you're working, try to learn at least 2 technologies in your field, because they'll have purpose to you. You'll learn how to use them so that you can start to get comfortable with this language of technology and to be able to use it. And then also, look for opportunities to continue to learn. Going to work can also include learning components. So talking to vendors, really being able to take advantage of tuition reimbursement or courses that your company might offer.
You've been talking in the past 3 or 4 years about career selfies. And it sounds like career selfies are more important now than ever before. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'll tell you this story. I may have told it to you before that a couple of years ago, Google published a statistic that said that people were taking 93 million selfies per day. And I'm
Wow.
sure it's much more than that now. And I said, this is really interesting. We spend a lot of time taking pictures of ourselves. How much time do we actually spend on our own personal career planning? And I couldn't find a statistic, only one, an hour and a half a year for people who were still looking for a job 2 years out of college.
My goodness.
And so I was a little frustrated, so I wrote a blog, isn't it time to take a career selfie? And it still resonates today because it is about taking a snapshot of where you are at any point in your career and putting some focus on it. And I think that's really important to do, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, is just stop, take a look at what do I want to do next? How can I plan, make a timeline, and how do I get there? So the career selfie is even more important today because it is so confusing. So we might have to break it down into where I want to be 6 months from now. Or can I see myself in a new job in a year from today? How do I get there?
So, how do we motivate people to take more career selfies?
In the workforce, I always encourage managers today to encourage employees to be the CEOs of their own job. That is, I would sit down with an employee and say, you see this job you have today? It's not going to look anything like this a year from now because of you. You're going to become the CEO of this job because otherwise the job won't grow. So you're going to really look at the landscape. Let us know, where's the competition? What direction do you think that you should take? And give employees some ownership so that they feel like they're really creating the future of their own careers and also for the firm.
Yeah, I think ownership is very, very important.
It is. People really resonate to the fact that they have some control
Right.
of their destiny.
Right. The control is so important. What can we do at work to stay ahead of the curve besides taking a career selfie?
So at work, for an employee, think about lateral moves. Think about high visibility jobs and opportunities and projects. Think about ways to build your skills. Ask for opportunities with your management teams for maybe filling in gaps, maybe while someone's on vacation or on a paternity or maternal leave. Think about ways that you can expand yourself by doing more things, because then you'll become more valuable to the firm and you'll just be more happy and interested because you're doing much more entrepreneurial activities.
Right. And what else can the employers do to help employees' career development?
So employers have to create the environment. So if an employee came to me, which I did have, they said, I'm really uncomfortable with my communication and public speaking skills. What can I do? And I looked to see if there was any courses that we offered internally, and we didn't. So I went and found the budget and offered to everyone on the team that if I brought in a trainer to help everyone with public speaking, would they opt into it? And boy, they loved it. So there's ways that as a manager, you can really listen to your employees. And if it's something that's useful for the firm, which public speaking today really is,
Yes, it is.
you'll find the way to make it happen. And I think it's one, the employee has to articulate what they want, and two, the manager needs to create the environment so they have access to tools and opportunities.
So the manager has to use a certain degree of creativity too, don't they?
I think so. I think managers have to realize that every employee is unique. They're custom, and we have to create the environment for their own personal growth because we benefit from it if our employees continue to grow.
Now, as a soon-to-be college student, what should my grandson be thinking about regarding future jobs and careers?
So number one, of course, the coursework. And I always tell college students, take the tough stuff and the requirements in the first 2 years because you have the most interest, energy. You don't have to major right away, but then you can start to understand like a direction. Number two is please take the time outside of the classroom to really build up skills, not just sports. Think about leadership skills, think about volunteering, think about community activities, think about other things. And then, of course, the summers and vacations. Start to explore how to spend, is it a summer abroad teaching English, or is it an internship in a field that you completely don't know about, like maybe healthcare. And then the next summer, and I know internships are hard to get, but it could also be then I go into a technology. So I can start to see what I like in this whole theme of what do I like to do that I do well, that I can get paid or promoted for.
Are there any secrets to getting the kind of internship that you might want?
Start early. A lot of students, a lot of parents tell me it's all hands on deck today with internships, particularly if you're trying to target high visibility firms. But a lot of parents tell me that they're out there networking with their kids to try to find where the job opportunities are. Students also talk to their career centers. They also talk to alumni who are working in companies. And they also talk to friends and family, because it's really about getting them exposure to different kinds of things. It may not be where they live, or it might be somewhere else. So I think it's like really looking and starting early to make that plan.
Now, here we are living in Silicon Valley, so we all think we know where the jobs are. But where are the jobs in today's market on a overall countrywide basis?
Well, in Silicon Valley, we know where the jobs are, quite frankly, and it is going to be a lot about technology. And they're, artificial intelligence, immersive technologies, smart machine learning, all of this is, where the jobs, Internet of Things, big data. So that's where a lot of the jobs are. The second area is to think about is also healthcare. That's always growing as we're living longer, and there's so many disciplines in healthcare. I view healthcare as a building block kind of field, because you can start with maybe a certification, decide if you like it, then take more education and continue to work. So those are one of those learn and earn kind of industries. And then you can even make decisions if you want to be on the people side or the non-people side. A third area which is always in demand is financial skills.
That's true.
And we need these. So if you have that kind of mind and you're interested in finance, there's always in demand. And then there's always going to be the sales and customer service and service aspect, and that's in so many industries. But it will always continue to evolve. So we always have to continue to look to see where the jobs are. Government is a big employer as well. And that takes a different kind of person who's comfortable working for the state, local, or federal government. So there are jobs in other areas than just technology.
So what are some of the jobs of the future?
Future. So you think about what we see here today. Since I see so many autonomous cars driving around the streets. It's incredible. So just think about the jobs that creates. It could be people to repair these cars, design these cars, remap out the streets for these cars to drive in, the insurance around these cars, the legalities around these cars. Another thing I see a lot here are drones. Everywhere I go, I see drones. Well, we need drone repair people. But then I look at immersive technology, right? You think, you try on this and you see another world. Well, that opens up the door for different kinds of job opportunities. It could be history taught differently. I have a gentleman who says he takes all of his retirement trips on his Oculus now.
Oh.
He puts on his headset and he sees different parts of the world, and he doesn't have to leave his doorstep.
Oh, but it's more fun to leave his doorstep.
Well, he's having a good time. He said he's been all around the world and has so much fun with it. Which brings up another point, a nostalgist. Someone who really puts together, because we have so much video and selfies, people actually create stories. Maybe it's for someone's 50th or 60th birthday party, or it could be, a special event or memorial over something. People actually are putting together and curating video and online media and creating these autobiographies of people. So a lot of this just opens up as different areas.
So is that what work will be looking like in the future?
So work will always continue to evolve. Some of the things that companies tell me about the difference of work in the future is it may not be these very defined roles anymore. Many companies are exploring with project work, where a manager might post a project and people can apply for it. So it doesn't really have a name like marketing. It's, do you want to be on my project team? Here are the skills I'm looking for. So if you have the skill, and then you might move to another project in another part of the company. So it might get even more amorphous, which means we as individuals have to be even more control of our careers and planning because it may not be as less predictable each time. So the work of the future could be very different.
What are some of the skills to prepare for in today's market?
So continuing to learn to me is probably going to be the most critical. A lot of us may have gone to school and told it's a one-stop deal. You know, when you get your high school degree or your community college degree or your bachelor's degree or your master's degree, you're done. You made it. You get your job. But today it's really about you have to continue to learn. And so one, in the company environment, we have to make sure we create that environment for continuous learning. But two is ourselves. And there's so much more resources to learn today. If you think about it, I live on YouTube, constantly looking at webinars, educational videos, listening to podcasts, really, interviews. There's so much more available today so that you can continue to learn. And actually, we have to.
Yes, I think you're right. We have to. Now, diversity is a hot topic today, too. How can employers increase diversity in hiring for their workplaces? Because sometimes it's really difficult.
Yeah, it is. And actually, it is a very hot topic. It is a very hot topic in California because there's mandates to have more diversity on boards. So there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of organizations really trying to think through how do we do this. So number one, we have to stop hiring in the same old patterns that we hire in. If we're always going to the same school or the same companies, we have to start thinking more creatively. You got to remember when Apple created their first retail store, they didn't go to a retailer, they actually went to a designer. They went to Burberry's and took the designer, instead of a computer company, they went thought outside of the box. But number two is companies are being much more transparent. And the government has always been sort of transparent about jobs and salaries, but now all of us have to be much more transparent about who are we hiring, what are the numbers. And also number three is just really offering opportunities and leadership opportunities to people who have the potential in the firm. So we really have to open up that pipeline, bring in a different group of people, and give really lay the landscape for them to grow.
Now, are there some other forces impacting our careers and our employability?
Well, we're always going to have the automation part, which people have to think about, is that every job will have a technology component. Every job has a piece of it that could be automated out, either by software or by hardware. So instead of hiring someone to do a robot's work, I'm going to say that again, don't hire a person to do a robot's work. Really understand that the robot is now another team member. So a human has to be able to be the creative, the innovative piece of the puzzle today. And the robot will take on that manual labor, that slow, routine, rote work that we don't want to do. And I think that's a really hard mindset change for people because we've always hired people to do repetitive work. And then the more repetitive and skilled they got, we promoted them. That's off the table now. We need them to be thinking, creating, and innovating and not do a robot's job.
So that's actually more interesting than the repetitive job.
Very much so. And I'll tell you, a lot of people realize, they say, oh, I'm scared that robots are going to take my job away.
Right.
This is the stuff that you don't want to do anyway. Right? I mean, you don't want to be, at the airline ticket counter, just doing ticket after ticket after ticket. You want to be there planning people's trips or, solving problems or creating new revenue streams. But, so you have to start thinking about really, what are the pieces of my job that are so routine that I could offload to either software or hardware?
Can you tell us more about the key megatrends of change that impact organizations and careers these days?
Yeah, so the big one that everyone is talking about, because it's pretty scary, is security. And there is such demand today for people who can be, ethical hackers, help us with the cybersecurity. Because every one of us as an individual, a government, a healthcare system, a university, we're all feeling the impacts of security. So I always say to a young person, if you have the interest and wherewithal to look at security as a career, it's a pretty gosh darn good one because companies are willing to train you. So that's a landscape we have not had to deal with, in the past. So I think that's a really big trend. The other one, if I just flip to the healthcare side, balancing out the fact that we're living longer, but then also curing diseases and trying to, preserve ourselves is a big trend today.
Yes.
How do we do this and do this well? And that's a big challenge as well.
Now, here in Silicon Valley, I keep on hearing about the lack of qualified workers, and there seems to be a talent shortage and a skills gap.
Very big talent shortage everywhere. And a lot of it here that you're going to hear about is going to be technology related. So, how do we connect students to math and science at an early age? How do we connect students to jobs sooner so that they understand the requirements? In fact, many companies are really doing a lot of outreach, saying, how can I get, either equipment or robotics or manufacturing into the school so they can touch and feel it, or like an Oracle, how do I integrate a high school into my company so that students can see in real time how the jobs are evolving and they can get interested in it and start to see things that they like. So there's a lot of ways that we can build stronger partnerships between the schools and industry. And I think a lot of people are realizing that it's not two separate entities anymore. It has to be very integrated.
One last question. What advice can you give to us regarding keeping up with the rapid changes in technology and the resultant culture lag? Because we have a lot of old folks here in the better part.
Well, I would say this is part of this biggest, most important career step, right? This is the career that you're in now, and you have to think about all of the components, including technology. So doing what you're doing here to me is phenomenal. Having the resources available so that people can, one, it's social, two, you're learning technology, three, you're doing something different in skill building. And it's really, letting the word out to let people know that activities like this exist in our community here and that we really need more people to be doing this because it is a multi-generation workforce today. And I think it's incredible because I see young people in here and I see all generations in this studio. So I hope that there will be more people watching your show and volunteering for organizations like this because this is exactly what you want to be doing.
Thank you, Tracey, for being with us today.
Thank you.
What valuable information Dr. Wilen has shared with us today. Please be sure to also watch us on YouTube and Roku. See you next time. Bye bye.